The Chicago Bulls get another bad injury update, this time for Ayo Dosunmu, who will be out at least 10 days with a strained right calf. We're going to talk about it all. Plus, we're going to do the pregame show, all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Sir Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today. So the Chicago Bulls are going to be without Ayo Dosunmu for an extended period of time with a right calf sprain. Unfortunately, this is not good news for the Chicago Bulls. Ayo Dosunmu had really just worked himself out of his slump. Over the last about 5, maybe probably about 10 games, he really kind of gotten out of that slump. And it's unfortunate now that he's kind of caught up to where he was last season. We now see Ayo Dosunmu go out. The Bulls just cannot find some type of rhythm. And Ayo Dosunmu is really important for the Bulls' point of attack defense. They don't have very many point of attack defenders on this team. It's Lonzo, it's Ayo, it's P. Will to a degree, even though we're using him more so to guard bigs, centers, and power forwards. But a lower right calf sprain is going to keep him out. That he suffered, December 23rd against Milwaukee. He's now going to be out at least 10 days is when he'll be reevaluated. Now, keep in mind, the reevaluation period does not necessarily mean that that's when he's going to be able to come back. On top of that, we also know that Jalen Smith is now out of this game as well. He was downgraded to questionable with the ankle soreness. They've already announced he will not be playing in today's game. We will be getting Josh Giddey and Lonzo Ball back. So there's that at least positive news for Chicago Bulls in that case. But, the Bulls just keep getting – Modest is back as well. Let me not forget Modest Bucilis. He's back as well for the Bulls, who's another important young player for that Bulls team. But, it is what it is, unfortunately. When you look at it, let's pull up the Bulls schedule. I just want to see how many games is Ayo going to miss over 10 days. Now, keep in mind, 10 days means reevaluated. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be back at that point in time. So between there, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 6 games Ayo Dosunmu is going to miss. He's already missed the last 2 games for the Chicago Bulls. So, that's a nice amount of games. So 6 games, which means that the earliest he can probably come back is that Washington game on January 10th. So, we'll see what happens there. Maybe he gets acknowledged or moved up and upgraded between now and then, but we'll see. What's going on, Cortez? Glad to have you in the building. What's going on, Daniel Berry? 10 days will go by fast. Yeah, it probably will. It probably will. At least there's a bright side here. Looks like we're on our way to keeping that first round pick. I mean, that's definitely a way to look at it. Damn, drip so hard. Don't stand too close. Listen, come on. This is what we do. This is what we do. Come on now. Y'all already don't be so surprised by your boy. We got this. This is what we do. The city's always on me. You already know. Hopefully this injury with Ayo doesn't get too serious. Yeah, hopefully for sure. Bruh, he's gonna miss damn. That does suck. That Ayo's gonna miss the Derrick Rose game. That sucks. That does suck, man. If we didn't have bad luck, we wouldn't have luck at all. Tom Thibodeau, that's funny. Giddey is back today. Him, Lonzo, Modest Bucilis are all in. Josh Giddey and Ayo Dosunmu are out in this game versus the Bucks. So there you go on that one. Ayo missing the Rose game as a Chicago local growing up there is sad. Yeah, it sucks. It really does suck. But hey, what can you say? Damn, that's going to be a tough loss. Ayo is huge for us. Ayo is a really important piece of this Bulls team. Now, if Kobe White can come out of his slump, he can at least take over the scoring slump. But keep in mind, like Ayo Dosunmu was not only efficient from 3-point range, he's a really good point of attack defender, like I said. So, it is a big loss for the Chicago Bulls to be without Ayo Dosunmu for 10 days with injury. But in the grand scheme of things, like I said, 6 games, right? 6 games. You should be able to weather the storm without Ayo, especially we got Lonzo back. We got Giddey back. Kobe, hopefully, is going to keep playing better. Dalen needs to stay out of foul trouble, so we'll see what happens. Hit the like on the way and phone them shot. We appreciate you on that one. Is Sanogo playing? I mean, we haven't heard anything about him being called up, so I doubt it. Subscribe to all Chicago Central pods. Absolutely. You already know. Just add the loss to the stop, Staxy. What's wrong with you, bro? You need some cooch, bro. Like you need go out and get you a woman, my boy, or man, whatever you like. Go out and get that. This is so unfortunate, man. Yeah, it really does suck. It really does suck. I will be at the UC next game for Rose. Only bought my ticket early December. Shout out to you, Bulls Daily. Shout out to you, bro. Better get those pictures up on social media about that. Javon gonna get some minutes, you think? No, I doubt it with Giddey and Lonzo back. I doubt it. I doubt it. So Haize, where do you get all the drip from? Because I'm going to order me something for my birthday because I'm coming up in February. Shay, you're around all the time. I say Fanatics, Culture Kings, Pro Standard. It's mainly where I get my stuff from. Lids, if you need hats, right? That's where I get most of my stuff from. Lonzo should start. No, Lonzo's not. Like, you can't start a player on a minutes restriction. That's just not typically what's going to happen. Bulls fan here in Sacramento. We appreciate you on that one, brother. Torrey Craig may get some. Oh, Torrey Craig probably will get. Well, I think it depends because like forwards are back stacked now. We got all our forwards in there, except Jalen Smith. So no, I take that back. Torrey Craig could play some small ball center, which Billy Donovan has used him as before. So we could see. We could see. It's so hard to get excited about tonight's game after that Hawks loss, but we go again as always. Well, here's the thing: if you're going to look at any type of positivity, like we're getting 3 players back that we were losing in that game. We're getting Josh Giddey, Lonzo, and Modest Vucevic back. So, if you need any kind of silver lining with that, that's the silver lining in that case, right? Giddey and Lonzo being back should be a big boost for us. Shame with Ayo. Yeah, it sucks with Ayo, man. My bad, gang. Listen, I understand, bro. I've been there. I understand, man. I throw some fun, but all jokes aside, I definitely understand the pessimism. I understand pessimism from every Bulls fan because, unfortunately, that is one of the things that this team has definitely earned is pessimism from its fan base. So, is Jalen not playing? No, Jalen is out. He's out with injury. I doubt Lonzo Ball may never start again in his NBA career. Like with the way he's playing, like there's a good chance he will, but teams are going to be cautious with Lonzo for a while. Like, and so, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Haize, I think you're the only greatest black man in history, so you can give my most favorite son, Lil Jabari, the TBL, bro. What's wrong with you, fam? What's wrong with you, bro? What's wrong with you? You think Bulls trade Vooch or Zach? I said it before on the daily shows. At this point, I'm just gonna say that I doubt a trade gets done for either guy. I'm just gonna doubt it. Now, I think that there are legitimate offers probably out there, but I like once it got said that the Bulls got offered their best offer for Zach LaVine, literally since that New York Knicks offer that they turned down before they wanted to trade Zach, right? And when you look at yes, Zeke Naji is a bad contract. But when you look at that in the face, right, and you're paying Javon Carter on your team to be on your bench, you're paying $12 million for Chris Duarte and Javon Carter, and you're not willing to take back an $8 million contract in Zeke Naji that declines, that slides every year to get MPJ and a first-round pick, it gave me a lot of doubt that a trade's actually going to get done, personally. Have you ever stopped to think about that we have all our starting pieces back, so ain't nobody getting a starting spot except for the original starters? Haize, off topic, but I remember the 2010-11 season. The Chicago Bulls broke so many records to get put out by the Heat. No lie, I thought we was going to win a championship that year. What about you? I mean, listen, that Heat team had more talent. And I think that if we were a shooting guard away, like if you, and I know the money wouldn't work out, but if you had Ben Gordon on that team, I think the Bulls would have got past the Miami Heat. Mainly because when the Heat moved LeBron to guard Derrick Rose, Ben Gordon was the type of player that could score in isolation, off catch and shoots, that would have busted up their defense, and they would have had to adjust again. I just think that with the way that series was going, I think that they could have beat that Miami Heat team if they had Ben Gordon on that team. I've been in this homeless show. Okay, I got it. I'm off TBO. Like, can you go into some Zach trades? What they turned down? What was the Knicks trade? Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I know it was built around RJ Barrett. There were 2 first-round picks and a first-round pick swap that was offered for that. And I think there was another player that both teams would have gave. It wasn't RJ Barrett straight up for Zach LaVine. The Bulls would have had to put somebody else in the deal. It wasn't a big name though. and I can't remember who else they were offering. It wasn't Quickly or anybody like that, but it was RJ Barrett and a role player to make the salary cap work at that time. But it's the 3 first-round picks that they turned down. That would have been crazy. Are you using this as your pregame show or starting? No, we're just gonna ride this one through. We're just gonna ride it through. Do you think it's time to give P Will the come on, bro? TBO. I'm sorry, bro. I love you. I'm not reading no more of your comments. If you can't pay some respect to the channel and ask a legitimate basketball question, I'm not reading your comments anymore, TBO. I get it that your whole stick is being a dope fiend and all that, but like honestly, bro, and as I'm trying to clean up my act, I'm trying to stop going off on people. I'm trying to stop cursing as much. We got to clean up the bullshit. And so unfortunately, TBO, if you don't have a legitimate basketball take and you're just here to get off your silliness, I'm not reading your comments anymore, brother. And please don't take any offense to it, but we got to elevate, and we can't elevate if we keep the silly stuff going on. So I'm changing as well, right? I'm still gonna go off, but I'm not gonna go off talking about people's mamas and stuff like that anymore. I'm gonna go off on the team when they upset me. We got to clean up the act here a little bit. So if you want your comment read, leave an actual basketball take, my brother. Yeah, Najee shouldn't be the thing to hold up a trade. That contract isn't the worst ever. Actually, could be good. Phil, exactly, could be. And listen, he's 24 years old, right? So like, you never know. Like we've had players that have been bad for us that went on to be somewhere else. Like, and he's shown some ability to do some other stuff. Not even Ben Gordon. If we had Kirk Howard, a player not only could score but hit three consistently, but shut. I agree with you, Shay. That's a good call out. Kurt Howard. Keep in mind that was the one player that they gave up in that trade deadline. They really looked at and said that they wish they would have kept. I love when Ben Gordon was playing for the Bulls at that time. He comes in off the bench and drops buckets. Well, he was starting his last 2 years here, but yeah, Ben Gordon was just he was dope. Quentin Grimes. Okay, that makes sense. Quentin Grimes. I knew you guys would remember. I feel like the perfect trade for Vooch would be Heat get Vooch. We're not getting like that's not a perfect. That's a perfect trade for the Bulls. You got to think about this in the Heat sense. The Heat aren't giving up Khalil Ware. They're not giving up Khalil Ware. They're not giving up a player that they just drafted. What was it in the lottery, right outside the lottery for Nikola Vucevic? They're not doing that. That's not the type of deal we're getting. I would love Khalil Ware on this team, but you're not getting Khalil Ware back in that trade. I would take Barrett, Grimes, and picks for Zach any day. Yeah, but keep in mind, the Bulls didn't want to move Zach LaVine at that point. So it wasn't one at the time where the Bulls were looking to move Zach and they just turned down the trade. The Bulls were very invested in keeping Zach LaVine at that time. That's why they turned it down. But it goes to show the lack of foresight again, because 8 months later is when the rumor started that they wanted to move Zach LaVine. So it's like timing. Man, it seems like clockwork. The injury bug seems to always hit around the holiday season for the Bulls and just screws up everything. Agreed. 100% agree. Somebody got to tell AK to make the Zach LaVine trade. Yes, Zeke Nazi is a bad contract, but the move is to build for the future. And the whole thing, the entire history of the NBA, if you take bad contracts, you get more picks. I'm not saying they'll get another first-round pick, but even if it's like, all right, you take the bad contract, we'll give you an additional second, something, right? You got to remember that Haize isn't just here to talk shit 24/7. A joke here and there is great, but it's not a joke channel. Try to keep the Bulls related as much as possible, then joke occasionally. Yeah, listen, I want you guys to still joke, talk your crap, be silly. This is not all of a sudden going to be stuffy. Like, I want everybody to leave their joke comments. It's just like, and jokes about the Bulls are fine. Jokes about me are fine, right? To a certain degree. It's just like the silliness, like all that extra stuff. We're gonna try to start cutting that out. Bullshit fire Billy Donovan, pick up Mike Brown. Listen, Mike Brown isn't a great head coach either, but sometimes you just need a different mindset on it. So, well, sucks not having Ayo is a major blow, but his health for the long term, the most important thing. So, Bulls as a team better step up, and Mata should shine, getting more minutes. We'll see. Dorian Finney-Smith trade being finalized. Teams are going to have to come through us eventually with options. DFS trade? I didn't even see that. Let's see. If I can type today, I don't know why I can't type today. Let's see. I don't see anything about anything being finalized. Where'd you see that at? Hey, I don't know if you remember the 2007 series. Will you play it against the Miami Heat? Kirk was. Will you play it against the Miami Heat? Kirk was giving. Shay, if we're trying to clean things up here, bro, can you please do like check your grammar, bro? Check your grammar. Check your grammar. We're not even gonna go and check your grammar. But yeah, Dwayne Wade's always. I mean, Kirk Hinrich's always guarded Dwayne Wade really tough. I think Dwayne Wade has even talked about that a little bit. I would love for Billy to get fired, but it isn't happening anytime. Yeah, Billy isn't going anywhere anytime soon. You think signing Giddy is a good idea? What if he asks for a crazy amount of money? I mean, listen, here's the thing, and this is just in all honesty. He's not going to get the 30 million he'd asked for, but anything less than that, Giddy's worth. Like, I'm sorry, we've seen role players sign for $33 million this past offseason. That's just is what the market is at this point in time. So I think that with the youth that Giddy has, how much he still can bring to a team, and he does have to improve in certain areas, that it would make some sense, even if you look to move him later. Now, I would say this as well. If the Bulls look at this season and decide that they don't want Giddy for the long term, and they try to do a sign and trade with the team, that's fine as well. That's fine as well. Mike Brown would be a great fit for this team and its pace. I mean, listen, Mike Brown has coached some really solid teams before. Debo out here getting coaches fired while his hair still hasn't grown. That's hilarious. It's more than just Debo, but yeah. It's crazy. Last season, we wanted more threes being shot. Now, this season, we're saying we need to shoot less threes and drive a bit more. Seems we can never get it right. Well, no, I'm not saying shoot less threes necessarily. I'm just saying that when your three-pointers aren't falling, you need an actual offense to default to. And that's right now what the Bulls don't have. We don't have an actual offense. When three-pointers aren't falling, the Bulls ain't doing nothing. They're not doing nothing. And that's a problem. That's a problem. Another game at the UC tonight. What's our record here again? Like 3-10. What are the Bulls at home? Let's see. 4-11. We are 4-11 at home this season. That's crazy. That's crazy. Nothing finalized, but talk is DFS to Memphis for Kennard. Hey, that's a good trade for them. My question is what does that mean for do they not expect G.G. Jackson to really be back this season, or maybe not have the role he did? Who was a better defender, Kirk or Ayo? Right now, Ayo can get there, but I would have to say Kirk, because Kirk did it for longer. And he did it at a time where you got to keep in mind, it wasn't a lot of versatility like you're seeing now. Like Kirk Hinrich in the modern NBA would probably be able to guard some fours. Kirk, at a time where literally guards were just guarding guards, was able to guard 1 through 3 at a time before the heavy switching came in. And keep in mind, Kirk Hinrich changed his body to play next to Derrick Rose. He put on like 12 pounds of muscle that offseason so he can play more shooting guard than small forward, and really lost nothing on his game at that point in time. Kirk Hinrich in the modern NBA would be, keep in mind, look at what Alex Caruso got. And Caruso's not nearly the consistent shooter Kirk Hinrich was. And I'll say Ayo was just as a disruptive defender as Alex Caruso is, with deflections and everything. Kirk Hinrich would be a perennial defensive player of the year type player. I honestly think that. I honestly, truly think that in the modern NBA right now, a perennial defensive player of the year conversation guy. Ayo can get there. He's only in his 4th year now we're in with Ayo Dosunmu, but Kirk Hinrich was just at that size and what he was able to do in an era where not a lot of people were guarding 1 through 3. There are a lot of people guarding 1s and 2s, right? And being able, and even 2s and 3s, but there weren't a lot of people to guard 1 through 3 for what Kirk Hinrich was, and the fact that he wasn't the most athletic player. Kirk Hinrich was a monster defensively. Ayo's a huge blow for this team. Smith being out is a massive blow for this team. Snuggle is in Delaware right now, so he's not able to suit up. The Bulls' big man depth is a detriment to this team. It's always been. Hey, listen, it's been one thing that we've had every single year. Every single year. We got to be careful with those calf injuries because that is a sign of a weak Achilles. Shut him down until the All-Star break. They're not going to shut him down that long. But keep in mind, it was initially reported as a strained Achilles, so you're not off with that. It is a sign of something going on with the Achilles possible. You're absolutely right there. So, bro, even though Arturis was late to the party and went in a younger direction with the squad eventually, went off season too late. I still have some doubts about what we get back whenever we move Zach and Vooch. Well, keep in mind, I mean, that's the market. Holding on to them is worse than if you get something back and you get a pick that's not a lottery pick. That's way worse. Is holding on to them. It just is at this point. If their choice is to go younger and build more organically, if they decide to pivot and they want to make some win now moves, okay, that changes it. But if we're operating under the mindset that this team is all built really around the future and what can happen in the future, then yeah, that becomes a detriment to the team a little bit. Kirk one time held Steph Curry to 3 points. That was the season that we had DJ Augustine. Yeah, Steph was a different player then, but I definitely agree with you. I compare Caruso to Kirk. Exactly. Yeah, I agree with that. And Kirk Heinrich is just a better shooting version of, and keep in mind, with the threes that teams now take, Kirk Heinrich will be even more dangerous because of the way he was able to hit threes. Like, yeah, man, it would have been crazy. Kirk was a competitor and he wasn't scary. He was go get down with you, everybody. Listen, Kirk Heinrich did not play. You remember the Kirk Heinrich, Rajon Rondo little rivalry that was there for a little while? Man. It's coaching. Donovan don't know how to call a timeout, when to call a timeout, and that's just the start of it. Yeah, I mean, Billy Donovan got some big shortcomings. Keith Bogans played good defense, but he wasn't no scorer, and we needed a real shooting guard. I mean, he was a real shooting guard. He just wasn't a scoring shooting guard. But I mean, Keith Bogans was fine as like a gap. Like I would say this: if we had Kirk or Ben Gordon and Keith Bogans was coming off the bench for that team, that would have been nasty to be able to have, even if it was more specifically, if it was Kirk, if you were able to have Kirk Heinrich as your starting shooting guard, and then you went from that, even when he sat, or you had Kirk and Keith out there at times when Kirk played some point guard when D Rose would sit, and we still had who was the guy that we had as a backup? CJ Watson, who CJ Watson's first 2 seasons, really season and a half here, was really good. Man, that guard depth would have been crazy. Off topic, THT deal is partially guaranteed. The cutoff date is January 7th. I wonder if the Bulls keep him or cut him to open a roster spot for a potential deal. I think they'll keep him too. But if we do see on January 6th that the Chicago Bulls waive THT, that's a huge sign that a trade's coming. Because if they do that to open up a roster spot, that's a huge sign that something's coming. Jeremy, we didn't trade Ben Gordon. Ben Gordon signed as a restricted free agent with the Detroit Pistons. That's what happened there. And then he was out of the league 2 years later, I think. Kyle Korver would be a 30-ball player in today's game with the shooting of the modern NBA since he retired. Yeah, Kirk Heinrich would be now. It's still Kirk Heinrich. Kyle Korver defensively though. I still don't know with like how switching works now. I don't know how much you could play him. Like I'm not saying that you would play him, but I don't know if he'd be a 30-ball player because defensively he still gave up a lot. Ronnie, oh yeah, shit. You're absolutely right. Ronnie Brewer was a terror defensively. And you know the thing about Ronnie Brewer too is that Ronnie Brewer always had those games. Like it was like 1 every 5 games or something where offensively he just went into a zone and you're like, where did this come from? Where he'd hit like 2 threes or whatever. Like it'd be like, what's happening here? Keith Bogans played pretty good for us in a couple of series. I don't know if y'all here go. I gotta stop. Anytime Shay says I don't know if y'all remember, like, what are the chances of a top 8 team offer a 2nd round pick for THT? Here's the thing, and I've talked about this before, right? THT is not good when he's playing with other starters. Like the reason why THT is able to put up the numbers he is here with the Chicago Bulls because the Bulls don't have other scorers or even players that are really aggressive on offense when he's in the game. He's able to operate as a high usage player. He's not going to do that on any other team. And thus, like when you look at THT's minutes, when he's out there with the Zach or with the Alonzo or with the Giddey or with the Kobe, his efficiency is terrible. But when he's out there with the Dalens, with the Julians, right, with other players that aren't aggressive offensively, he shines because he is aggressive offensively. So I don't think that he's going to have kind of like even like a market of like a Torrey Craig, because Torrey Craig has shown he can fit in. He actually plays better with star level players, whereas THC doesn't necessarily play as good. But I mean, if a team does look at THC in his time here with the Bulls and says second round pick, I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that. Oh, Nocioni, man. Listen, Andres Nocioni was a generation too early. Literally, if you take Nocioni and just move him 10 years back, listen, and he was already a solid player here, but if you just move him 10 years back, man, like, and this is no slight, Nocioni is like a less athletic Franz Wagner in the modern day game. Literally. He had ability to put it on the floor. He was a solid team defender, not one-on-one, but in team concepts, he was a solid defender. He rebounded well for his size. And you go back and look, Nocioni had some block. He wasn't like a consistent rim protector. I wouldn't call him that, but he had some blocks sometimes where I think he caught people off guard with how quick he can leap at times. Nocioni was a really good player. Oh, no, I definitely agree with that. I'd love to see Scottie Pippen Jr. in the Bulls uniform. Would love it. Would love it. How big of a crash out do you think the fan base will have if we finish with the worst 5 teams in the NBA and finish out of the top 5? For the record, I think we'll finally have a good luck season. Well, I don't. If we finish in the bottom 5, you can't fall out of the top 10. I think in the lottery, the lowest you can fall is 2 spots, maybe it's 3. And that's if all 3 teams below you leap you. So if you're at number 5, the Bulls are keeping their pick, because it's not possible for 5 teams to leap you in the lottery. So if you're one of the 5 worst records in the NBA, the Bulls are keeping the pick. But I mean, to kind of bring your point, let's say the Bulls finish with a bottom 8 record and they fall out of the top 10, man, the crash out would be crazy. Crazy. Mike Dunleavy would flourish in today's era with the penetration of the threes. I think Mike Dunleavy, that shot. The thing with Mike Dunleavy is he was a good shooter, but he maybe the added spacing would have actually helped him. And the reason why I say this, Dunleavy didn't really have the quickest release. Now, he was a solid 3-point shooter, but it's not like he had that trigger release that some of the 3-point shooters have now. And so teams would have been able to close out on him, but there's more spacing now in the modern day game. So, maybe that would have worked out for him. Most you can fall is 4 spots. Okay, 4. So yeah, even if that means they're in the bottom 5, then yeah, then the lowest they can go is 9. So all this losing, the Bulls are only still 5 games out of the number 4 seed in the East. Yes, but they're also like 2 games out of at being at one of the bottom 3 teams in the East. So I mean, yeah, you can look at it that way if you look at it if you're a glass half full guy, but if you're glass half empty guy, the Bulls right now are, let's see, they are 1 game from being the 12th seed, and they're 5.5 games from being the 13th seed, which is a bottom 3 record in the Eastern Conference. That's how, so I mean, depending on how you look at it, right? When you want to be glass half full or glass half empty. The breaking, so I'm just doing it all together, Troy. I figured there's no point in stopping and starting back up. So yeah, we're gonna stop about the 30-minute mark, and we're just gonna be done. Shout out to one of my favorite Bulls, though. Short-lived was Brad Miller. Brad Miller had 2 different stints here, right? But yeah, Brad Miller was a really, really solid player for us over that time. With how bad the East is, I honestly can see the Bulls dropping. I can't see the Bulls dropping out from the 10th seed. We will finish. No, what are you talking about, Azamate? Let's go over this. The Philadelphia 76ers, having lost back-to-back games since November 27th, they're only a half a game back from the Chicago Bulls. So the Bulls can fall out of the 10th seed now. The Philadelphia 76ers are 7-3 in their last 10. So you're saying you can't see the Bulls falling out the 10th seed? We're almost out the 10th seed now. The Detroit Pistons have won 3 in a row, and they're playing some of their best basketball right now. The Pacers aren't falling off. The Heat aren't falling off. The Bulls can easily, as in tonight, not be the 10th seed. So I don't think that it's a foregone conclusion that the Bulls are 9th or 10th this year. I just don't see it. Craig Hodges and BJ Armstrong would be the average 15-point game, making $20 million per year, pure jumps. How did this turn into a player in this era thing? The East being bad is way too. The East, here's the thing. The East is very close together, as is the Western Conference, right? Like, you look at the Western Conference, from the number 3 seed to the 10th seed It's 4.5 games separating them. So everything's close right now. That's what you want is the parity. But, I'll say this. The Orlando Magic haven't been fully healthy basically the whole season, right? The New York Knicks aren't fully healthy. Like, if they get Mitchell Robinson back and he's ready to go, the Milwaukee Bucks have just started really hitting their stride, right? So, the East is weaker than the West, like as far as that, but make no mistake about it. There's the East can still get some work done. Ion Kobe should get a few training sessions with Ginobili and Tony Parker. Listen, I don't even know. Manu Ginobili is probably somewhere right now in Spain or Argentina, right? He's Argentinian. Argentina, smoking the biggest of cigars and drinking, and he probably got naked women hanging. I don't think Manu Ginobili showed up to anything in the last 8 years, basketball-wise? I don't think so. I just don't think so. Bulls could easily be the 12th seed after today. Yep, they absolutely could. Absolutely could. So we'll see what the Bulls got in store, man. Especially with all the injuries that the Bulls have now, too. Okay, maybe not 12th, but absolutely 11th if we lose and Philly win. Absolutely. Absolutely. This team is just messing around. I don't see a rookie coming in and saving our team. It's not about saving our team. So let's put this in perspective, because I think people are starting to lose the modus operandi here. It isn't that one rookie comes in and saves the team. It's about adding a talent that helps you, makes your path a little bit more. At this point, it's about adding talent, right? Let's take away the one player doesn't save a team anymore. LeBron James never won a championship without another star in there. So one player doesn't save your team, but it does make your direction more clear, right? Because look at it this way, right? I hope that this makes sense in the way I'm about to explain this. The Chicago Bulls right now, right? Right now, the Chicago Bulls are in the middle of the pack. They don't have the draft capital outright unless they do tank, or they don't have the cap space to add. And free agents have never really come here to add a player to make you move forward, right? Thus, sometimes the ability to move forward means the coming backwards. So in the deepest draft of the last 5 years, that you can add a talent that you're not going to get in free agency, you're not going to be able to trade for. And thus, with developing that talent, as long as with Modest Bucilis, with Kobe and Ayo, if they stay, those type of players, you now have a younger base. And keep in mind, this is the thing that I've always said. Being in the middle of a pack with led by 30-year-olds is not as good as even if you're right outside the play-in with 22 and 23-year-olds, because at that point, you are progressing, right? That's what it's about. It's not about just one player coming in here and saving the Chicago Bulls, but it's about doing something that you need that can actually progress you. And even in changing the front office, that's not going to change the salary cap restraints that we have. That's not going to all of a sudden clear our cap table, right? So I get what you're saying, and it's not just about landing a generational player. It's about adding the most talent possible. And you either add that talent through trades, free agency, or the draft. Bulls have never been free agent destinations. We don't have the assets to make a big trade for a star level player. So what's the most likely scenario in those three areas for the Bulls to actually improve? Is to draft a young talent. So that's what you're looking at it with. And hopefully I made that make some sense for people. Facts says even MJ needed the right pieces around him for a team to be a championship level team. Yeah, he needed Scottie, right? Look, like he didn't make it without Scottie. Never won a title without Scottie, right? And solid pieces around that as well. So it's not just as simple as you add one team. Cooper Flagg is not going to win any team a title. He can help a team on a path, but it doesn't that alone. So it's not about one thing changing the Bulls in of itself. It's about how that adds to how you build going forward, right? That's what it's about. How deep do you see this draft being? There's obviously going to be clear-cut 1 through 10 at the end of the season, but what number does that deep draft end at in terms of, I've said this before, you can, and it depends on how they, like, again, keep in mind, draft is always based off potential, but you can get you somebody who's going to be an all-star a couple of times over the course of their career, upwards to about pick number 18. And you can get a damn good player, still a starting caliber player, year starters through number 20 to 22. That's how deep this draft is, right? So it's a very, very deep draft. And I really can't wait till the offseason to cover it. It's a very deep draft. I think we'll end the season around 8th worst record, even with no trades occur. Wizards, Raps, Hornets, Nets, Pels, Jazz, and Blazers will be worse than us. Everyone else will likely be better. That's that. I agree mainly with that list. Yeah, I agree with all of that list. All good points there. The only person who could win us a title on their own is Chris Duarte. That is hilarious. That's funny. In your opinion, Haize, is there a lot of talent in the second round value in this upcoming draft? There is some. Now I'm not gonna say it's like, because some people kind of have the mindset it's like, well, if this is such a deep draft, can you get starters in the second round? You still got to be smart, right? You still got to scout those guys. But I will say this: like, there are some guys in the second round in this draft that would have gone in the first round easily last year's draft, for example. Tyler Harris, the small forward out of Washington, he's a guy to keep a look at that I think. Tyen Grant Foster as well. He's a guard out of he's a senior out of DePaul. A little bit older, but think of like Wilson Chandler, right? That level of player, you can get that guy in there. I think he's another one to really watch in this draft. Kobe Brea is a senior out of Kentucky. He's another guy to really look at in the second round of this draft. There's some really good talent in the second round of this draft. I hope we can develop the talent in front office can build something before the window closes. I just don't have faith in Acme to do any of that. Well, that's the thing. That if you go younger, the window's wide open, right? Now, I will say this: look at what's happened since we hired the player development department in Peter Patton, right? Billy Donovan, not really a great developer, but Peter Patton has done really good work. Look at Modest and where his shot was from when he came into the league to now. You'll see that release is quicker, it's higher, right? Ayo's talked about how much Peter Patton has helped him. Kobe credited last season a lot to Peter Patton. So, we got the player development department. I think that's going to do really big wonders for this Bulls team in longevity wise. So would you rather the Bulls keep their 2025 and don't care if the Spurs get their 2026 or 27 pick? Yeah, because the talent's now, right? Why push it off another year? I mean, eventually the Spurs are going to get that pick. And I doubt the Bulls are going to be bad enough to keep that pick all 3 years. So either way, you're going to give up one of those picks to the Spurs. So it is what it is there. But it's even more restricted next year's top 8. So this is the year, if you're going to try to keep it, that's easier to keep it. So the Bulls are currently diving between two lanes right now, competitive but not horrible enough to where we completely bottom out and tank. Completely agree with you on that. Completely agree with you. Not gonna lie, this draft scares the shit out of me because AK's draft selections have made me question his thought process, even though most of them have sort of panned out somewhat well. He said, let's see, you can't say that. You can't, like, if you're being fair, you can't say that most of them have panned out and then say he's an idiot. Just because a player, there's always going to be, when you go back and look at the draft, be like, well, if you actually would have drafted this guy. But let's look at it. Patrick Williams, at bare minimum, is a player that plays solid defense and can shoot 40% from three. That's solid. If you gave most teams and say you can get that guaranteed in the first round, they'll take that. Now, unfortunately, the Bulls drafted him 4th overall, and then some of the players after him went on to have way better careers so far, right? Ayo in the second round, tremendous value when you look at Ayo Dosunmu in the second round. Julian Phillips, another second round pick, but when you look at second round picks, the fact that he does and is starting to look like a player that's going to be able to stay on the court and contend, really good. Right, the Bulls haven't had a lot of. It's not like they've missed on a bunch of first round picks. The first round picks have been P. Will, Dalen Terry, and Modest Bucilis. P. Will's a solid starter, not great, not worth the 4th overall pick. Cool, but he's still a solid starter. Disappointing because he's not aggressive. Dalen Terry, he's looking like he's going to be a role player. Fine, all right, cool. You missed on that. I can't remember who was drafted around Dalen Terry and how they ended up working out. Modest Bucilis looked like he's going to be really freaking good. So. It is what it is. It is what it is. This draft is terrifying. There's so much talent, so much that there's inevitably going to be in years teams that selected the wrong star from a deep. Oh, facts. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's inevitable. It's going to happen. It's going to absolutely happen. I see Modest being what they thought Larry would be when we drafted him and progress at the same pace. Well, I mean, they're not really comparable players. There's nothing similar about Modest's game and Larry's game, other than them both being European-based players that come from that descent. There's nothing similar about their games. Physically, okay, maybe, right? But Larry's a legit 7-footer. Modest is not. Modest is athletic. Larry's not. Larry can shoot. Modest can't yet. He's working on the shot. So I don't really see the comparison with those guys, right? Personally. I don't mind Donnie Freeman from Syracuse if he falls to our second round pick. That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, Walker, that's the one. There, you're absolutely right. Walker Kessler would have been such a good pickup for the Bulls at that time. Such a good pickup for the Bulls. This is why I think keeping our pick is so important, because even when we stack draft capital through trades, the first round picks being discussed are into the 2030 and beyond. Our young players may be gone. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point too. Very good point. Very, very good point. Haize, do you see Modest game being similar to Franz Wagner's? To a degree. To a degree. I think that's a solid enough comparison. I think what people run into as well, and I know people are going to clip this and use this for whatever. We got to stop thinking that you can only compare white players to white players. That's one of the things that's failing with Cooper Flag. So many people just keep trying to find Cooper Flag comps, and they just try to find a white guy. We got to say that it's different now. All white players don't have to be compared to other white players. All black players don't have to be compared to other black players. That's where people kind of go wrong with some of their comps. I disagree with you on that one. Herb Jones is starting on teams, and he's one of their coveted players. P. Will would start on a lot of teams depending on how their makeup is. A defender that can guard 3 or 4 positions and shoot the ball 30%, 40% from 3, absolutely. The reason why Bulls fans are the ones that have the stigma of looking at P. Will and saying, but 4th overall. Other teams wouldn't have that. I can go through other teams' starting lineups, and I guarantee you I can find a starter that's numbers is just about at the same level as Patrick Williams on most NBA teams. Let's go to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Best team right now in the Eastern Conference per record, right? Dean Wade has started for them some games, right? Let me see how many games Dean Wade has started for them. Let me make sure I'm not. He started 13 games for them, 6 points per game on 39% shooting. Let's go to Max Strus, who's now a starter for them, right? Max Strus, 5.3 points per game on 35% shooting. He started 70 games for them last year and averaged 12 points per game, which only 1.4 points less than P. Will. I mean, more than P. Will. And he shot the ball 35% from the field, from 3 and 41%. Patrick Williams can start on most teams in the NBA. So it's just there's a lot. Let's go. Let's switch it again. Let's find another team. Let's find another team. Let's go to the Western Conference. Let's look at the OKC Thunder. I think everybody would agree the OKC Thunder are a pretty damn good team, right? I think everybody would agree with that. And this is why perspective matters so much. Cason Wallace, a pretty damn good player by most people's estimations, started 17 games, 6.5 points per game on 30% shooting from 3 and 42% shooting from the field. It's a different level of thought process when your team drafts somebody 4th overall. That's what it comes down to. It's not that P. Will is not is an overall bad basketball player. It's that he's not living up to the expectations of being drafted 4th overall. If the Bulls would have drafted him 20th, it would have been a steal. I didn't agree about P. Will, but if a team already has, I just named teams with 3 or 4 stars, Jamal. Just went to teams with 3 or 4 stars. As a matter of fact, I would say this. If a team had 3 or 4 stars, it's more reason P. Will would start, because he would need to do even less, and they'd be able to really look at his defense. Ooh, David. The scary thing about keeping the top pick is if we keep it and the front office extends Billy Donovan, he's horrible. That's crazy. That's crazy. Haize, don't even bother trying to break it down for any. That's not fair, bro. That people just have a difference of opinion. Jamal and Deanna are two of the smartest Bulls fans around. They're just all jokes aside. Listen, no, just because people agree with you. Now, there are some people that do have a bad outlook on basketball, but Deanna and Jamal aren't those guys. I'm going to defend Deanna and Jamal. They're really Deanna is a very smart basketball fan. Very, very smart basketball fan. This last year, the Bulls had the number one pick was we know. We haven't had a lot of number one picks. P. Will isn't the type of player a losing team would appreciate, but if he was on a winning team, P. Will would be loved because he does so much of the unsexy work. Facts. Oh, stars is small. Oh, facts. He's not starting over any star. Now that I completely agree with you, Jamal. He's not starting over any star. People would be a starter on the Wizards because the team is. Oh well, yeah. I mean, easily he'd be the star of the Wizards almost. Other teams frequently mention P. Will as trade target. I got to assume the front offices of other teams know more than fans about the value of players. And like I said, fans have, and it's understandable. I'm not knocking any fans for it. Fans have that stigma of the fact that the Bulls drafted P. Will 4th overall. And we also see the games where it's like, we just see people like, P. Will, be more aggressive, right? If we ended up lucking out on the top 3 pick, this would go against the luck of Chicago right now, but bear with me. Who do you like at number 3? Harper, probably. Harper is probably how I go at number 3. But even though I think now a lot of mocks have Harper going number 2. So if Harper goes number 2, then man, I know people are gonna say Ace Bailey, but what's the guy's name? What is it? Damn it! What's the guy's name that's been playing really good? Trey Johnson. Listen, I know that we're guard heavy. I know that we're guard heavy. Make no mistake about it. But at 6'6", and the way that Trey Johnson's able to score the ball, and he has that 6'10" wingspan, I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. I always said it. Patrick Williams would be a great player and still has the potential to be a great player if he was on a team that suited him better. We aren't the right team for him at the moment, in my opinion. I don't disagree with you on that. Don't disagree with you on that one. But all right, y'all, I'm about to go ahead and get ready to get up out here, man. I appreciate you guys for sticking it through with me throughout this extended pre-game and everything else going on. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.